there are some people that say that the Niners should not have gone away from Jones because he's hot and healthy. And that Brock Purdy, it's his job, but that they should have waited because Jones is playing well. And like Tom Brady said that, Richard Sherman said that. And I understand their position for sure. What is your thought on the decision to bring Brock back now? Shanahan was asked why now, and he's like, well, because the last 6 weeks I've been watching him and he's been getting better. Purdy's saying that it's, told us yesterday it's a variation of turf toe. But there was the doctors recommended there was no need for surgery. I don't know. I mean, was now the right time, or was now the right time? Is now the right time for the Niners? Is now the right time for Brock? Who do you think's pushing his return back to the lineup?
I think it's a question that we will have an answer to Sunday afternoon during the game and after the game, right? Because I'm interested to see how Purdy looks. He has literally been day to day, week to week for the last month and a half. He starts the season, obviously, week 1 on the road against Seattle, and he played up and down. The opening drive of the game against what has ended up being one of the best defenses in football was brilliant. And that was the healthiest that the Niners had been all year. And now they're the healthiest that they've been really since then, because George Kittle got injured and then missed so much time. And then Brock Purdy got hurt. He missed so much time. Then Brock Purdy re-aggravated the turf toe in week 4. Ricky Pearsall got hurt in week 4. And it's been the Mac Jones show ever since. And so it's really been a roller coaster of a ride of a season for San Francisco. And turf toe is such a tricky and complex injury that you just don't know how long the recovery is going to be, when there's going to be a re-aggravation or a re-injury, because Brock Purdy sat out week 2, week 3, came back in week 4 because he felt good then. Then he got hit, according to him. He injured the toe again in week 4, and Mac Jones has played in every game since. And so I just want to see how Purdy plays on Sunday, and I mean that in a couple of ways, right? Is he the same athletic Purdy who can extend and create plays and improvise plays out of structure? Because that's a strength for him. And I think it takes this offense to another level because he gives the Niners offense athleticism that Mac Jones does not have. I think that Mac throws with really good timing, accuracy, and anticipation, but I think Purdy obviously is better. One thing that Mac did not have that Brock Purdy will have is more explosive weapons on offense. George Kittle, Ricky Pearsall, hopefully Jordan Watkins starts to get some more reps. And when a Pearsall comes back, everybody kind of slots into where they should be, right? As far as wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4. And George Kittle has started to look a little bit healthier over the last couple of weeks. And so with the Niners offense being the healthiest that it's been since that opening drive, which they went right down the field, 90-plus yards against Seattle, how do the Niners look with the lack of reps with all of those healthy players? And how does Brock Purdy look when he's going to have to plant that foot, run around, and has the toe respond? I think it's fascinating. I can't wait to see how things play out. And it's not like they're easing him in, Larry, against a bad defense. Like, this Cardinals defensive front can get after it. They're aggressive. They can swarm you. Their defensive line is really good. Walter Nolan is back. He injured his knee last week, but his debut against Dallas, he was great. Josh Sweat's been really good all year. Jonathan Gannon, Nick Rallis, they run a really aggressive defense. And this Niners offensive line obviously has struggled at times against top-tier defenses.
No question. And, I was just in a stream with Damon, and he's like, if he has a bad first half, I yank him in the second half and go to Mac Jones. And I'm like, Damon, I don't think you can do that. I just think that you got to, if you made your decision to go bring out Brock Purdy, I think you got to give him this entire game for sure. I mean, probably more than that, but you can't just say, oh, he has a bad half, he's got to come out. I mean, I wouldn't have brought him back now. I would have waited till the bye week. I wouldn't have taken the hot quarterback off the field. I mean, you've got the number 1 passing offense in pro football. You're not winning games. I thought there was a report last week that if the Niners beat the Rams, that they were going to stick with Mac Jones. Well, they didn't beat the Rams, but Mac Jones completed 85% of his passes against the Rams. So it wasn't because of Mac Jones. It was because of a defense that basically never, ever stopped the Rams except for twice all day. Didn't stop them at all in the second half. Isn't that why they lost the game? Are we going to put it on Jones? So, I mean, to me, that's very odd. One, I don't know if that report was true, but I mean, look at Mac Jones. These are the numbers. He's completing 69.6%. It's the seventh best in the NFL. He's throwing for 268.9 yards per game. That's second best in the NFL. He's had 300-yard games. That's the most of any quarterback in the NFL in this season. He's got a passer rating of 97.4. It puts him 13th. I mean, this guy's basically a top 10 quarterback right now. Without Ayuk, with Kittle being out, with no Pearsall, with no run game behind a mediocre line, and that's probably doing the word mediocre a disservice. I mean, what do you think? I mean, you can't yank Purdy, but at the same time, man, I mean, was it the right move to go to Jones, go away from Jones here? And then I don't know if you saw the Cowherd video, but I mean, he's got Jones's numbers side by side with Herbert. They're very comparable.
Yep.
With Baker. They're very comparable with Mahomes. They're very comparable with Dak Prescott. They're very comparable. So I get it. It's Brock's team, but let's not pretend that Mac Jones hasn't been a revelation, because he has.
Oh, he's been a revelation, and I think that he's resurrected his career, and you've seen every bit of why Kyle Shanahan really liked him in the pre-draft process in 2021 and why he pinpointed Mac as a perfect quarterback for his scheme. And obviously with Brock Purdy's mobility, I think it gives this Niners offense a different dimension. But you think about the quarterbacks who Kyle Shanahan has had success with. Jimmy Garoppolo, not mobile. Matt Ryan won an MVP, and he wasn't mobile at all. And Kyle Shanahan coordinated that offense to go to the Super Bowl, and obviously they should have won it when they were up 28-3 against New England. But this is how you and I have been doing the show for a really long time together every football Friday for the last couple of years, because as you were talking, I was pulling up that Cowherd video to go side by side, because he kind of did the blind resume for how Mac Jones compares against other quarterbacks. And for Mac, I don't think that any loss that he had this season, going 5-3, was because of him. I think it was because of the defense and a game or two. It was because the offensive line, especially against Houston and against Tampa Bay. Mac Jones has not lost the Niners any game this season because of his performances. Has he turned it over from time to time? No doubt. Some of those are on him. Some of those are on his teammates and his wide receivers for letting him down. But this is a player who has saved the 49ers season, and he's been one of the most productive and hottest quarterbacks in football. And so you compare Mac's numbers with Dak Prescott and Justin Herbert and some of these other quarterbacks. These are players who are in the MVP conversation this year, Larry. So Mac this year, 69.6% on his completion rate. Herbert, 67%. 268.9 passing yards per game. Herbert, 261. 300-yard games, both of them with 3. Passer rating, Mac Jones, 97.4. Justin Herbert with 96.7. Some people might say, well, Herbert, so many players have been injured, especially along the offensive line and on defense. Same with Mac Jones, right? You compare Mac's numbers to Dak Prescott. He has the completion percentage edge, 69.6 to 69.3. Passing yards per game, 268.9 to 257.7. 300-yard passing games, Mac has 3, Dak has 2. And passer rating, Mac's at 97.4, Dak is at 98.8. Mac Jones against Baker Mayfield. Baker, 9 starts. Mac, 8. Mac Jones, higher completion rate. Higher passing yards per game. Higher yards per attempt. 3 300-yard passing games to 1. First downs, 117 for Mac, 111 for Baker. Against Patrick Mahomes, 9 starts for Mahomes, 8 for Mac. Mac completion rate, 69.6. Mahomes, 64.6. Passing yards, 268.9 to 261. Mac gets that. Mahomes only has 1 300-yard passing game. Passer rating, Mahomes 98.2, Mac Jones at 97.4. You know, him compared to Brock Purdy, he's obviously put up better numbers. And so he has had an underrated year just because I think of the name value that he has and his previous struggles and how everybody's stock was down on Mac Jones. And I wouldn't trade him after this year because I think there's so much value having him on the current contract that he's on for next year as well, with some Brock Purdy injury problems. But shoot, I'll tell you this, there's some buzz that some of the top quarterbacks in college football are going to return to college next year, making the quarterback class very light, in turn, making teams who are in search of a quarterback very desperate to find one. And what could that do for Mac Jones' trade value? Skyrocket it. And if the Niners really like Curtis Rourke, do they trade away Mac Jones for a first-round pick or a second-round pick? It's a fascinating conversation to look ahead at because of how well he's playing this season.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt. I mean, and they're talking up Adrian Martinez. They really, Lynch likes what he sees from Adrian Martinez, who's really athletic. It's funny. I watched a video this morning of First Things First and Chris Broussard, who I really do like. Broussard. I've met him a couple times. I think he's better on basketball than football, but he's always interesting. And he made a point. He's like, hey, man, it's not like Mac Jones is lighting up the world. They've lost 3 of their last 5 games. Okay. But look who they've lost to in those games. They lost to Tampa in Tampa. They lost to Houston in Houston, and they lost to the Rams. In those 3 games, the Niners' 3 opponents averaged on offense 32.6 points per game. And the Niners' offense in those 3 games averaged 20 a game. Yep. So you can sit there and be like, yeah, they've lost 3 of the last 5 games. But, it's really, the 20 a game's not great, but the 32.6 a game shows the real story is that their defense has just been a joke. I mean, not only that, one of those games was against Houston, and Houston's offense is pathetically bad, except they were great against the Niners. That actually is my big fear for Sunday, is that people are like, oh, man, look at Seattle. They ran the ball up and down the field against Arizona. This should be an easy game for the Niners. Wait a second. Seattle also blew out Houston, and the 49ers made Houston look like world beaters. Yep. And if you're telling me that C.J. Stroud, who's really not very good, behind a really bad offensive line, and having, Xavier Hutchinson, Jalen Noel, and Jaden Higgins, and Woody Marks, if that group can beat the Niners, then why the hell can't Brissett with McBride and Dortch and Michael Wilson and whoever's running the rock be just as good? So I'm sorry if I'm not, really, the Niners may blow the Cardinals out. I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's going to be a very, very close game. I don't think they're going to get any pressure on Brissett. The Niners' young DBs are inexperienced and struggling, especially without a pass rush. The linebackers are really banged up. I would not be surprised if this is a very competitive football game.
Yeah, and on top of what you said with the defense really struggling and not doing Mac Jones any favors, look at the weapons that he's had to throw to. Hasn't had to throw or gotten the opportunity to throw to George Kittle all that much. And Kendrick Bourne, for a large sample size there, of the 8 games that Mac Jones has started, has been his number 1 wide receiver. The guy was let go and sent away by the New England Patriots. The Niners added Kendrick Bourne to the roster because they were desperate for some wide receiver help. Now, has Kendrick Bourne proven to a lot of people that he can still be a legitimate wide receiver in this league? No doubt. Is he a number 1? No, he's not even close. On a good team, he's like a wide receiver 4. And I do think that if Jawan Jennings leaves after this year, which I think is inevitable, just re-sign Kendrick Bourne because he can give you what Jawan Jennings has given you, but at a much cheaper price tag. And so the context is really important on that front too. As far as this Arizona game, this is a really competitive team. And a lot of people might look at their record and say they stink. They started the year 2-0. The Niners beat them on that game-winning field goal as the buzzer sounded, as Eddie De Niro Pinheiro came through in the clutch once again. And I think Arizona is 1-6 since that loss. Their lone win coming against the Dallas Cowboys, but they have lost 5 games this year by around a field goal or 1 score. And so they have played a lot of really close games this season. And starting with that Niners loss, there was a stretch of 3 straight games where Arizona lost on a last-second field goal. So you look at the record, you might say they're not competitive, but you watch the games, they've been a really competitive football team. And I think that Jacoby Brissett makes that offense better from a passing standpoint because he's just a better pocket quarterback than Kyler Murray. That is gotten Marvin Harrison Jr. going, even though he's going to miss this game against San Francisco. Zay Jones is also out. He hurt his Achilles last week, and so they're down their top two wideouts. But now their number one overall target, who that's really been the case all year, is Trey McBride. What have the Niners struggled with all year, especially last week against the Rams? Covering tight ends, because they don't have the linebackers capable of covering good tight ends. This defense for Arizona is really good. Their front is very physical and aggressive. They can get after the quarterback. They do a good job of stopping the run. And so I think desperation matters as well. Houston was desperate. They shellacked the Niners. Arizona is desperate. This game, I think, is going to come down to the wire. Plus, do you have any confidence that the Niners defense is just going to be able to turn it around after what was a horrible performance against a good team last week? There are going to be some lumps and bruises with this defense. So it's really up to this offense the rest of the way, I think, to hover around 30 points per game. And they better hope that they can get to around 30 points per game in this game, because I think that's what it's going to take to win this and a lot of the games for the remainder of the season.
Let's talk about Jones for a second. Do you think at the end of the year, he signed a 2-year deal, Chase? I mean, that one is really a surprise. I mean, Darnold had that 1-year deal, and not that Darnold wasn't committed to being a Niner, but I mean, he was clearly using the Niners to rebuild his value. I mean, it was nothing nefarious about it or anything. It's just that was the fact. But Jones was different. Jones came here on a 2-year deal.
Yeah.
It's almost like Jones kind of took more of a macro long-term view of his career and just said, hey, look, I think I want to be in San Francisco for the next couple of years. What do you make of that 2-year deal? Do you think Jones pushed for it? You think the Niners pushed for it? It's the result of it is quite a bit different, right? If it had been a 1-year deal, he'd be looking at making a king's ransom in the free agent market in a down quarterback year potentially. And instead, he's given the Niners basically a trade asset. He doesn't have a no trade clause, so they can send him wherever they want. The Jets, the Raiders, there's a few other teams out there that are really desperate right now for quarterbacks. Cleveland, the Jets, and the Raiders, I think all could be in the market. There's probably a few more after that. Do you think Jones is going to whisper to the Niners at the end of the year, hey, I love you guys, but trade me? Or do you think he's totally cool with being here next year as a $7 million backup to Purdy?
Tell you what, from an organizational standpoint, what a savvy and smart move to sign Mac Jones to a 2-year contract. I mean, can you imagine where the Niners, Larry, would be if Brock Purdy got hurt in week 1, came back in week 4, then was out up until now? If the Niners had the same situation at backup quarterback this year that they had last year, where they're throwing out Brandon Allen and Joshua Dobbs, we'd be talking about the Niners as picking top 5 in the draft. This season would be over. Instead, they're now 6-4 because Mac Jones has been a revelation, and he's kept this team competitive to a point where they're in the thick of the playoff race. And I think that the Niners' previous experiences with their backup quarterbacks may be led into wanting to sign Mac Jones to a multi-year deal instead of a 1-year contract. And for Mac Jones, he may have looked at the Niners as the perfect destination to go for him to get his career back on track, resurrect it, finally be with a viable coaching staff and one of the best quarterback whisperers in the sport right now in Kyle Shanahan. He looked at what the Niners did for Sam Darnold and how he's been able to really revive his career. And Mac Jones looked at it as the same opportunity. And his situations with New England weren't good. Like at one point, Matt Patricia was his offensive coordinator. Doug Peterson and Trent Baalke were walking dead men with the Jacksonville Jaguars. So I think Mac wanted some stability, and the Niners wanted some flexibility, optionality, and stability at the backup quarterback position. And I think that this contract has really worked out for both sides. More beneficiary for the Niners because he signed a 2-year deal worth less than $9 million. And so maybe Mac this offseason says, there's a great opportunity for me to go somewhere else where I can be a starter. And obviously that was my goal, to work back toward that when I signed with the Niners. Do you guys minding trading me? And the Niners could say, you know what? Brock Purdy's been hurt a lot. 2022, injured. 2023, banged up. 2024, hurt. You helped to save our season this year. We have you under contract for next year. If we don't have a legitimate backup and Purdy gets hurt again, we're in no man's land. So we need you, and we'll let you walk after this year. And if you can get a starting caliber job, do that. But what if the Niners are blown away by an offer? in this light quarterback draft class, where, as you mentioned, a lot of teams need a quarterback, some team might look at Mac Jones and say, our coach, our play caller, our system, our offensive coordinator, catering to the strengths of Mac Jones, we think that he can be a very viable starting quarterback. We can get him maybe a tier below that Baker Mayfield, Daniel Jones, Sam Darnold contract, where we can sign him for $25 to $30 million over the next 3 years. And that would be a great value play. And because they're paying him less money, could they give up a first round pick, knowing that they're going to save some money on the Mac Jones contract? And could the Niners say no to a first round pick? That'd be hard to do. Especially, they didn't make a move going into the deadline. They have said, we want to keep our picks to build for the future. What helps you build? Through the draft and additional draft capital, whether it be another first or another second.
It's going to be really, really interesting. If Jones begged out and said, hey, trade me, or let's just say they got a good offer and they said, hey, we want to trade him. The Niners would have to probably try to find another reclamation project quarterback or find somebody in the draft. And then we're coming this year is, Baker, Darnold, Mac Jones, Daniel Jones. Heck, the guy they're playing this week, Jacoby Brissett, is playing better than Kyler Murray. The reclamation project quarterback seems to be in vogue. And there's more to be had there. What do you think? If you were the 49ers, they're now, especially with Darnold and Jones back-to-back years, they're kind of, I'm sure, thought of by many quarterbacks and many agents as, hey, that's the spot to go to rebuild your value. You're going to get a handful of starts because Purdy's not going to be durable. You're going to have a handful of starts with good weapons and Kyle Shanahan's offense, and you're just going to come off looking like you'll be looking like a rose, basically, if you go there. Who's a reclamation project quarterback that you would have interest in going into next year if Mac said, I want out, and the Niners are sitting there with Brock looking for another Mac Darnold reclamation project? Who would you want next?
I think another part of this too, and it just got me thinking when you were saying that, a lot of these quarterbacks obviously have private quarterbacks coaches. And I think those private quarterbacks coaches are obviously really tight with the quarterbacks who they work with. And they know that Kyle Shanahan can help to get these careers back on track. Look at Jordan Palmer working with Sam Darnold. Jordan Palmer has been very complimentary of what Kyle Shanahan's been able to do for Sam Darnold's career. And Sam Darnold is an MVP candidate this year. And obviously last year he played really well for Minnesota. So I think that's an important talking point as well. When I think of other quarterbacks who could be reclamation projects, you're obviously thinking about quarterbacks who haven't worked out on those rookie contracts after being high picks that could go to the Niners as a very viable backup quarterback, maybe get some experience to resurrect their careers like Darnold did and like Mac Jones has done. I'm thinking of a Zach Wilson type. I'm thinking about a Bryce Young type of player. If the Falcons move off of Michael Penix, Shanahan's never coached a left-handed quarterback, and obviously it's different because of the spin of the ball and throwing side compared to, non-throwing side and how you have to call and devise plays. But that's another quarterback who I would be looking at. It's quarterbacks in that type of tier. Some people might say Kyler Murray. He just drives me crazy. And I don't think that you can win consistently with a quarterback who's that short because he just can't see the field. If Brock Purdy struggles to see the field at times and he can run Kyle Shanahan's system great, Kyler Murray doesn't anticipate, he doesn't process, and he doesn't see the field to the level of Brock Purdy. I don't think that's a quarterback who'd be able to work in this scheme. Plus, I think Kyle likes bigger bodies a little bit better. And so those are just the quarterbacks off the cuff that kind of come to my mind as potential reclamation projects for the Niners. And as football nerds like you and I love these types of stories, right? Because I love evaluating quarterback play, and I love to see quarterbacks who are bust somewhere go somewhere else where they start playing well, because that is the beauty of high-level coaching. And that's why Kyle Shanahan is a top 3 to 5 coach in the NFL.
Let me throw a few names to you. I like the Zach Wilson idea. I really do think Zach Wilson could find himself here. I'll give you a couple more names that I think are kind of intriguing. What about Anthony Richardson?
That's a fascinating one. I've never been a fan because at Florida, he was like a sub 55% completion guy. And I know a lot of people will say, well, Josh Allen wasn't accurate at Wyoming. He fixed it. That's a very rare case. Usually, if you're not accurate, you're not accurate. But there is no doubt that the physical skill set is crazy. I mean, the guy can throw down windmill dunks on the fast break in basketball, and he can launch it flat footed 60, 70 yards. But the accuracy is a huge problem. But with Kyle Shanahan, I would take a chance on a guy like that. That's a good pull by you.
I got another one. Just thought of it last weekend. Davis Mills, 6'4", 225, 27 years of age, played at Stanford, mobile, athletic, backing up Stroud in Houston, high percentage, completion percentage guy throughout his career. Kind of not more a pocket passer, but an athletic pocket passer. He's, to me, that's another interesting name. Will Levis is an interesting name. Obviously, he's lost the blooms off the rose there for Levis in Tennessee.
Shoulder surgery too, yeah.
Tanner McKee. If Tanner McKee ever, if the Eagles ever decided, hey, you know what, we're going to move on from Tanner McKee for a draft choice. Tanner McKee went to Stanford.
I think Davis Mills is like a lesser version of Tanner McKee, but I like Davis Mills.
Maybe a little bit more mobile than Tanner, but not
His
quite.
Touchdown run was shocking last week to win the game. Like I didn't know that he had that type of giddy up to his game.
Here's a couple others that I were intrigued by. How about Jameis Winston?
Yeah.
Jameis Winston, I thought would be kind of an interesting one.
He's older on the older spectrum of that, but as a good backup who can win games and put up good production, he'll commit maddening turnovers, but he's fun.
That's Sam Howell has got mobility and good arm strength. I mean, there's just a number. There's a number of interesting names out there. Richardson to me is super interesting just because
Joe Milton.
Joe Milton with Dallas. Yeah. I mean, he's an incredible athlete. Some people say Willis. I'm not a Kenny Pickett fan, but it's just interesting. And because it's like, you got to think that the 49ers right now would be probably at the very top of the list for any reclamation project quarterback. How could you not see the handwriting on the wall the last 2 years with Darnold and Jones and not be like, I want to go there? And that's if Jones doesn't come back. If Jones does, I mean, I'll say this, if all the Niners get offered as a late pick in the second round, as much as I like second round picks and love the draft, I think Mac Jones's value to the team, when you look at what he's done this year, is greater than that of an individual second round pick.
No, I agree. I agree. Yeah, I'm right with there with you.